Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CLX Foundry Live. I'm your host, DJ BluePDX, and we're here with some very special guests today. We've got a very special build that we're going to be doing. Joining us, of course, is it's Paul Steffens, our lead technical expert, and Hayden Hutchinson, our master builder. We also have a couple special guests today that we want to introduce. Coming in from CLX itself, it is Jorge Percival, Director of Marketing, and from Intel Gaming, it's Marcus Kennedy, the General Manager for Intel Gaming. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, before we get into the nuts and bolts of all the questions we have for Marcus and for George, gentlemen, let's talk about what we're going to be building today and what's going to be going into it. Paul, take it away.
Alrighty, so we've got our Hathor PC. I'll do a rundown of the parts real quick, and then we'll get into all the questions. So, starting off, we've got an i7 13700K. That's all going to be cooled by a Fantex Glacier 1 360 AIO.
I love those.
The motherboard we're going to be using is an ASUS Prime Z690M Plus D4. And we've got 2 sticks of Gskill, 16 gig, 3600 Trident Z Neo. So we'll have a total of 32 gigs in this system. For our storage, we've got a 1 terabyte Samsung 980 Pro M.2 and a Seagate Baracude 2 terabyte hard disk drive. The video card we've got for this build is a Gigabyte Aorus 3080. This is the 10 gigabyte model. Big fancy box on this. Excited to open that up and see what's in there. For our power supply for the main system, we've got an EVGA 850 watt G5. It's 80 plus gold. And then for the secondary system, we have our Intel NUC. That's got an i7 12700 in it, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 1 terabyte Samsung 980 Pro as well. We will be adding a EVGA 750 GT. This is 750 80 plus gold power supply, and an Elgato 4K 60 Pro capture card.
Nice. Awesome. That's all going inside of a an 011?
Yeah, let me grab the case. Yep, we've got a special print design here. We'll be using 10 RGB fans for this build.
That's a plus.
Here is the case.
What is that?
Yeah, this thing looks sick.
That's gorgeous.
I always like starting off with that back panel.
The color fade is wicked.
Yeah, the color fade is. This is my favorite color fades. Anytime we do something with these colors,
just keeps on kicking stuff out. It's incredible. That's wild. Absolutely beautiful. So while you all get started on putting this together, let's chat with Marcus and George. So, George, this first time we saw this, because this is obviously we're doing the PC and a PC build today. First time we saw this was, I believe, at TwitchCon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
right.
that was where we first showed it. Thanks to Intel. We went out there. Day 0, right, Marcus? If I'm not,
That's right.
Calling it
Day
the right
0.
name, it was a Day 0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the first time that we showed it off. I think we even began the project probably a week, maybe 2 weeks before that at PAX West when Intel approached us about this crazy idea. And I think that same weekend, myself and Jesus were already on the phone trying to figure out how we could make it happen. So,
yeah, I mean, you said thanks to Intel. I'd say it's thanks to you guys, right? I mean, our guy Coy in our lab had this crazy idea to do this, and you guys just helped make this happen. And we, between this one and a second version that we had, we really showcased, I think, the speed of innovation within this industry. And if I may, I know the name of this is Hathor. We maybe get into this a little later, but I was in Egypt recently, and I learned quite a bit about the goddesses and gods in Egypt. And I know Hathor is also the goddess of beauty, and so that really is a beautiful chassis. And I think so it's well appropriate for a name and for something that looks like that.
Yeah, no.
I was going to bring that up, but yeah, I did a whole paper on that in high school about an in-depth study of the Greek and the Egyptian gods and the connectivity between so many different constructs. Not that that's important at all whatsoever. So let's talk about the NUC though.
We could turn this into a conversation about Egyptian mythology and religions. I'm cool with that.
So the NUC itself, back in I think the first one came out in 2012, but they originally started being sold in 2013, if I remember. I was fascinated the first time that I saw one.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different kinds of NUCs, right? So the design of the NUC, the whole point of NUC, and by the way, NUC is the next unit of compute, is what that acronym stands for, because at Intel we love our TLAs, our three-letter acronyms, and the idea behind the NUC was, how do we put as much into a single form factor as we possibly can, pack as much power, as much performance, but make it as small as possible so that we can do two main things. First, that we can showcase what Intel leadership looks like inside of that kind of a performance for specific segments like gaming, and second, so that we can give that to our customers and say, hey, this is a reference design that you can then go build it, or if you want, we can build it for you too, right? If you want us, our engineering capability and just kind of that world-class technology and innovation inside of your portfolio, we can do that as well. And since 2012, we've just seen kind of this explosive growth. It's one of our fastest growing systems inside of Intel. Even still, it's in lots of different segments, from finance and industrial manufacturing to the extreme version that's here. And one of the, beyond just the kind of small form factor kind of boxes, like the NUC Extreme Beast Canyon that's sitting on my desk back at home, which is what I game on today, we also have the elements, the compute elements, which is what you see here. And those elements are just all the stuff just on a single motherboard, and you can take those and put them in lots of different things. It's that reference design just made real. And so how this came about was a guy in our lab was like, hey, we're talking all of this about hybrid technology in our 12th and 13th generation core processors. We have performance cores and efficiency cores. We talk about gaming and streaming and all the simultaneous usages you can have. It's like, well, what if we did hybrid inception, and we took the gaming system and we took a NUC element and put them together, and so you had hybrid technology in the gaming system and hybrid technology inside the NUC. What could you do with that? And that led to this work here with CLX, which led to this awesome, creating and gaming, streaming at the same time system that you're seeing built here today.
That's absolutely amazing. And yeah, the first time I saw one, I think, was at the Power Play event that happened up in Seattle, up in Bellevue, and it was the first NUC I ever saw was just a little square box, just a little black square box, and honestly, I thought it was a USB hub. I didn't know what it was. They were like, "Oh no, this is a full computer." What? Mind exploded, and I fell over. It was great, absolutely incredible. So they've come through quite a few iterations. Now this is powered by your latest generation of processors.
That's right. So this one has the NUC element has the 12th generation in it. As you heard him talk about, the full gaming CPU on the motherboard, that side has the 13th generation CPU. So it's got both of our newest generation of processors in it. And the NUC, as you talked about, the one you saw was like a USB hub, maybe a router or something like that. We have some of those still as well. We have, tiny ones. We have a Serpent Canyon full system that looks like a router now, but it's a full gaming system. It's the first one with our Intel Arc cards in it, up to the upcoming Raptor Canyon that I held up on stage also at TwitchCon, that has a full desktop system and 3 slots for GPU cards, right? So like they really span, what you can do with computers within the NUC cards.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned the Arc cards. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because we saw some incredible things at several different events with the Arc technology and how it's performing. And with regards to that, what kind of things can you do with these NUCs?
Yeah, so you asked about NUC and you asked about Arc, so I'll talk about both. So first on the Arc cards, right? So as we see, we have entered the discrete graphics card space. We're really excited about this. We had our first series of Alchemist hit the lines with the A770s, A750s, and they're bringing this incredible performance when you have gaming and streaming and you have an Intel CPU in it. In fact, it actually shows market leading and industry leading things on like encode, and if you're trying to create as well, you see some of the really interesting things in software and tuning that we've been able to do. It actually does way better than maybe even some more powerful graphics cards that I won't mention here right this second. When you're able to do those certain applications, when you're like gaming and streaming, or when you're streaming or doing Hyper V1 encode and things like that. Now for the Nook systems, as you mentioned, we've spanned the gamut of discrete graphics cards, right? From Arc that we have in the Serpent Cannon that I mentioned, all the way to including systems with NVIDIA cards as well. And with those, you can do just about anything, right? As you see here with this build that we're doing here today. I'm really excited myself because, like I said, I've got a Beast Cannon on my desk right now. I just finished Elden Ring with it. I got on to Riftbreaker. I'm late to Riftbreaker, I know, but I'm having a great time with that one. And in particular, we've optimized, right? We work with the developers, and we've optimized both for a system with NVIDIA, but also with Arc cards too. So really excited to put our graphics cards to the test.
Well, and I'll be honest, I had the opportunity at TwitchCon and also at PAX to get a chance to play because you have this giant gaming truck that would go to these events, and I got a chance to actually game on one of those systems, and it was wildly fast, incredible detail, incredible FPS, like you would not expect it from something that's smaller than a book. But it was an incredible experience.
It is funny that you mentioned that. The last stop that it made over this past weekend was actually in Phoenix, which is where I live, Phoenix, Arizona. And I got a chance to go. I don't know if you can see this, if the reflection is there, but this is what it looks like on the inside of it. And of Nooks inside. And I got a chance to play on that too. It was just smooth. It was visual experience was amazing.
Yeah, I loved getting inside of it. It was was virtually silent. I don't know how y'all soundproofed that thing, but it was incredible. Yeah, and it was neat because I think it was interesting because right, it was interesting because in that silence, the one thing that I was figuring I would notice, because the whole truck is basically soundproofed, was there wasn't, but you didn't hear the sound of humming of PCs, of a lot of spinning parts. It was just very little quiet device hooked up to this breathtaking monitor, and multiple hundreds of frames per second on these things. It was wild, absolutely incredible. So, well done for these things.
Thanks. I want to give a shout out to the Nook engineering team, because what you're talking about, maybe without even knowing it, is some of that world-class engineering on the Nook systems, where the sound is just much lower that you would expect for that kind of graphical and audio fidelity when you're playing games or streaming or things like that. And so it was just amazing in that box. And we're bringing some of that engineering here into this 2-in-1 build,
which is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, the first thing that I think about it for this is, I would imagine this is going to be just for streamers, great, because you've got 2-in-1, but there's so many other different applications that this can be applied to. Like for everything from video processing to architecture, 3D rendering, film.
That's exactly right. And go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to comment a little bit on what you were just describing. You think it's only for streamers. I'd say, one of the great things about this build that George and CLX team put together is that it is great for gaming. Let's just start there. It's a fantastic gaming system, right, with that 13th gen as a system. But then when you're gaming while you're streaming, right, because of the way it's split, you can game with the 13th gen and stream on the 12th gen, right? We're actually seeing up to 25% frames per second gain while you're gaming and streaming together. There's a ton of other benefits to this as well, right? Power saving, when you get two PCs, you can put them into one. There's space saving, which, as we've heard from the creators who we've actually put this in front of, that simplified setup and space savings, because you're able to do both of those things on one computer at the same time. That's really what they've said is their favorite part, even as the gaming while streaming is faster, it's more smooth. Just the fact that it's a smaller setup and it's simple and easy to do seems to be the best. And to your point, it's not just about streaming or gaming. You can also do a ton of other things, right? And that's why we build the way we do, is because we think that our systems are best for everything and adapt themselves to the flexibility of the user. George, you were going to comment?
Oh, yeah. So for us, when we first heard about it, streaming was just the first thing that came to mind. And yeah, it made sense. You know, dual PC, a lot of us use it. But once we started looking into all the other possibilities, you know, compiling code, all those things are just natural steps that come right after it. Anything that involves a second computer, it's a good solution for this, right? So, or this is a good solution for that. So I think that we're just kind of really skimming the surface on what the possibilities are with having the Nook inside of a PC going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick nod to everybody in chat. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any questions about this or for Marcus with regards to the Nook or Intel Gaming, feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll get to them as quickly as possible. I did want to point out, Dorian, the critic, mentioned cable management is a must in his book about, you know, when you've got these things going together. There's multiple advantages to having two systems inside of one case when it comes to that.
Cable management is a huge one. For a lot of the creators, when we were at TwitchCon, which was probably, you know, when we think about it, it was definitely the right place to launch this. We had a lot of creators that came around, and they talked about how hard it is sometimes to manage two computers, whether it be, you know, their desk isn't large enough, and usually they want to keep their gaming computer on top of their desk because it collects less dust. That means that they're putting their streaming unit on the ground. If their desk can't handle it. So you have cables that are going, you know, across, down, across the back of the monitor over to the other side because that's the only place you have space. So yeah, it's a lot of cable management that comes with it. And these are those added benefits that I think being at TwitchCon, like Marcus stated, when we seeded the units out to different content creators, the feedback that we got, we were expecting really the, man, extra frames, all these like performance things to come back, and it was the one that stood out the most to everybody was like, dude, I saved so much space. You know, yeah. I now have, you know, room on my desk. It's so much easier to manage. Like, these are the things that really came back. So it's cool when you design a product with one thing in mind that's going to help people in a certain way, and then they start pointing out these other very simple things that you're correcting or fixing or helping that I guess we kind of took for granted, space on our desk. Yeah. So that was cool.
Yeah. And this is why I think it's...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to make the comment that this is, to piggyback on what George was just saying, this is why it's so important, I think, to connect with the community, and why we as a company, and why CLX does this too, why we go to where the gamers and creators are, because you learn so much by connecting directly. As technology companies, we sometimes get caught up in the tech specs or, you know, the extra kind of things we get in the goodies that you get, the extra ports, the extra dock, speeds and feeds, right? And then when you give it to somebody, they're like, oh, I can use one mouse to game and stream instead of having two setups. Like, oh crap, right? I didn't even think that would be the first thing that you like. I was just, you know, I'm right here in Las Vegas at the Esports Awards because we're finalists for Intel, or finalists for a couple of the awards for the esports community. And I was on somebody's stream. She had brought Chelsea Bites. She's a great streamer if you haven't seen her before. But I went to where she had her setup, and her and her team had it just set up in a corner of their room. And they had like two different setups with two different spaces, two different monitors. And I was like, hey, after we got off camera, I was like, hey, have you thought about this? She was like, I actually saw that at TwitchCon. This would be a great thing to go do. So it just gives you a sense of, you know, the applicability of something like this.
So one thing I saw that was mentioned in chat that I will bring up because I find it interesting, and we already know we know the answer to this, but they don't, is that the question came in from Monodota. Will this require a separate mice and keyboard combo for each system? And I think it's a great question, because when I sit here at my desk, I've got my production PC on the left, I've got my gaming PC on the right, and a horde of monitors, but there's a keyboard and mouse, my coXLR, a keyboard and mouse, and then my laptop. So when you started talking about space storage, I realized that's actually amazing, because my cable management's a nightmare. And so let's talk about the keyboard and mouse situation.
So there are two solutions. The way that we're sending it out. So when you receive the unit, you will get a link on your desktop, and you're able to use what we recommend, which is Synergy. It's a great piece of software. It allows you to be able to go virtually into your Nook as a mouse and keyboard, and you'll be able to transition. So you can go from your screen on your gaming unit. Virtually, let's say that you go to the right, and that's where your right monitor is. You can go to the right, and that right monitor is the Nook. It will literally just jump right over, just like if it would be on a standard one. And then that's mouse and keyboard there. You can use it there, make your changes to your stream. So we suggest that for Nook control, right? Because it's virtual. So we suggest that for Nook control. And then when you pop back into your game, you can set up any hotkey that you want, and it'll lock the mouse and the keyboard there, so that they don't jump out when you hit the edges, like in FPS games. If you do a quick swipe right or a swipe left as you're scanning, it'll lock them in the center. So that's one solution.
That's wicked.
And it's funny because for a lot of us, I think that's what it was. Like, that was how we wanted to do it. But we were at DreamHack Atlanta, and I think, again, to Marcus's point and what we were talking about earlier, going to these events really helps when you connect with the community, because we were stuck in our heads of this is what everyone wants. Oh man, the virtual mouse and keyboard, one mouse and keyboard to rule them all, right? And then when we were there's some people that really like the idea of being able to just swap over. So that made us think, well, maybe we just don't give the virtual software to everybody. They just, if they want to use it, they can use it. And if they want to connect the mouse and a keyboard and, do it that way, then they can do it that way. So yeah, you can use a mouse and a keyboard if you want to, a second set, or you could just do, virtual over IP.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question for Marcus, since we got you here. You obviously, you were a former professional gamer, and you're now the director of or general manager for Intel Gaming. How have you seen, with regards to how this is going to be pretty much the next generation of what's going to be happening in gaming, what would you say that has been the most incredible moment in the development and evolution of PC gaming as it's as it started?
Whoa, that's a big question.
Yes.
What's the the most important evolution? So, so what I'd say, kind of thinking about this, and maybe I'm a little biased right now because of where I'm sitting right now, literally at this esports awards thing. I would say it was the transition of professional gaming from basements to stadiums. Because what you got when you did that was you got this idea that gaming was breaking into the mainstream. You got parents now starting to get engaged because now their children can actually grow up and use gaming as a path for career. It's actually gaming, even though we all know that there are lots of career paths in and around gaming, production, sales, marketing, all this other kind of stuff. Parents, right, just want the best for their kids, and they grew up, right, thinking that gaming was just a pastime or a waste of time. And so when you have something like an IEM Rio, and by the way, I'm wearing an IEM Rio shirt here right now, Tokyo Masters, from Rio. When you break the records of having millions of people watching, then what you're also doing is breaking down these barriers, mentality of people into what gaming actually is. And I think, we've been in gaming, Intel has been gaming for about 20 years in esports, as we've kind of grown it from those basements right up into the stadiums. I think that transition was probably the biggest one, and what coincided with the switch of folks thinking differently about gaming. And so now there's this whole industry cropped up around it, so I believe at least that's probably one of the major ones. I could talk about other ones, some technology advances, some other ones, but I think the cultural shift is probably the biggest one that I've seen.
No, and I agree. Like, I remember the first time I saw an esports event was, I believe, on G4. It was Halo, and it was wild to me to see that. And that was that was when I first started really noticing that. Oh my gosh, this is really happening. So
yeah,
awesome.
I think Halo.
That's right.
Halo, Smash really broke esports into the mainstream, or at least gaming went a little bit more mainstream with those two games. I think they did a lot for it, right? Before that, it was what you had. Counter-Strike really was the big deal, but that was strictly PC. Smash really showed, a game that isn't a shooter, and then Halo, I think, revolutionized shooters in consoles. So
yeah. Well, and when you look
just
at the
rattled off
size of Dota and
oh, sorry, that's slightly late, so I'm sorry to continue to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. I was just saying, with the size of Dota and like League of Legends and World of Warcraft, those tournaments are just massive. thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people in a stadium bigger than I've ever seen, going at it. And it's wild.
And even more watching, right? And so the Dota 2 championships had more viewers than the Super Bowl, right? And you can start kind of adding up all of these views. Like once the World Cup is done, we're going to add those up and see which esports event beats it, right? Because I guarantee you that there are going to be esports events that actually beat the viewership of a single day of even a global event that we're all used to from a sports perspective like this. I did want to mention one other thing. You know, you asked about kind of also kind of the transitions. To me, one of the things that I think people don't really understand is how gaming has really been at the center of a lot of the technology transitions, right? That, you know, games and what it takes to run games, and the fact that it requires more and more compute power, more and more memory from both the CPU and the GPU is what's continued to advance that technology, right? And I think what's coming then is that next level as well, and what's going to continue to push those technological barriers are also based in gaming, right? You hear about the metaverse. I promise you won't hear me say that term again on this thing, but that persistent 3D reality, right? It's built on game engines, right? On Unreal Engine within Unity. It's all based on game engines, and so you'll start seeing more commerce. You'll start seeing, you know, governments using it. I saw somebody posting here on interactive fan engagement within games inside of that virtualized environment. All those things are gonna continue to push compute power, which is why we continue to try to push the limits on what you can do with a single system.
Absolutely, and just from having worked in esports on a production level and also as a caster, I think one of the other things that I just realized was this is going to reduce the overall amount of technology that you need in order to produce shows. Like that, just in my head, there's the first thing that I thought about. But, and to your point, I always thought that the biggest problem with my PC was the fact that I was trying to run Adobe Premiere and do an hour-long edit. And then I tried playing Rainbow Six Siege with full graphics. No, absolutely not. It turned into a heater. I thought it was going to melt down. It was wild. Yep. So
that's right. But can it run Crysis though?
Yeah, right. But can it run Crysis?
That's an excellent question. I have not. Well, this one I'm sure can. My old one, no. No. It was not meant to be. It barely functioned. So. But yeah, so I know we have you for a limited time. What's up next for Intel Gaming?
Yeah, so you know.
Uh-oh.
Still hear you.
Are we there?
There we go.
There we go.
For a second there. Can you see me again? We're good? Okay. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, we're good.
So what's next for Intel Gaming? Yeah. So I think, you know, you heard us talk a little bit about on this system that it's got both 13th and 12th generation processors in it. And so as we continue to move generations, you'll see more and more come through that. We launched our new desktop processors, that 13th gen that's in here, a couple of months ago. We will have the new notebook processors coming out, and you'll see those systems coming out later this month.
Cool.
It's publicly announced, so I'm not sharing anything that I'll get in trouble for legally by saying that. And at CES, we may have some interesting and other announcements coming that I can't share. But what in general I think you'll see us continue to do is continuing to do what I was talking about earlier, continue to push those technological boundaries, continue to innovate with companies like CLX and partners who can help us move quickly and give what the community wants. And because of that, you'll see us continue to engage with the community. We have to continue being where they are, where all the gamers, where all the creators are, so we can keep getting that feedback, and we can keep moving that bar and that needle forward.
Awesome. So if people want to find out and keep up to date with what's going on with Intel Gaming and the next events you're going to be at, where would they go to look for that?
Well, you can follow us on Twitter at Intel Gaming on Twitter. You can go to intelgaming.com, and on our broader intel.com, you can see all of our products and all that kind of stuff there as well. And so you can follow me. We'll always talk about stuff as well on Twitter. So you can just reach out directly. If you've got feedback, please give it to me. I love engaging with the community, so go ahead and reach out. If you try to troll me, I will ghost you, so just be careful. So we'll go from there.
What's your Twitter there, Marcus?
At mkennedy602.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Marcus. Again, Marcus Kennedy from Intel, the general manager of Intel Gaming, who's live from the Game Awards. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, Marcus, have a good one.
Bye.
All right. What an incredible conversation. Honestly, so much information there to unpack. And in the process, you guys have been extraordinarily busy over here. Let's jump back over to Paul and Hayden. So normally we talk a lot about the process of what you're building. So let's get into some of those parts. We've got that i7-13700 processor on this board. Tell us a little bit about this processor, Paul.
Yeah, so this is a 16-core processor with 24 threads. So it's got 8 P cores and 8 E cores. That P is for performance, E is for efficiency. So we have hyper-threading on the P cores and 8 cores on the E cores, which gives us 24 threads. The base speed for that is 3.4, and the boost is up to 5.4. So a really high boost clock on there. With this AIO, it'll keep it really cool, so it should stay at that boost clock. And yeah.
Cool. And obviously, you can order overclocking for your devices, and for graphics cards, we aren't doing that on this build, but that is something that you can order if you're going to order your build. We've got this mounted on a, let's see, it's an ASUS. It's an ASUS Prime Z690M Plus D4. Let's talk a little bit about this board.
Yeah, so pretty standard board here. The biggest thing that's a little different about this build, obviously other than it being 2 PCs, is that we have an MATX board and an ATX case. So that refers to the size of the motherboard and the size of the case. That's the form factor there. So using an MATX board is going to give us extra room at the bottom to install our NUC there. So you can see that extra PCB. So our video card will go where it usually is, and then our NUC will get installed right here with our capture card under that.
Awesome. That's incredible. So that PCB is a unique piece that's going to allow you to mount that in there. Are we going to need a support strap like you see on some of the 30 and 40 series cards?
Yeah, so we are using the NUC card itself will actually not need any support. We're using the motherboard standoffs to mount that there. Some unique thing too, though, is we're going to have 2 power supplies for this system. So this bottom part's going to get a 24-pin and an 8-pin CPU power to power the NUC, and then we've got a regular 850 G5 for the rest of the system. So we'll show that off once we get to that, and how this works, since we've never really done this in the 011.
Yeah, this is because there's so many questions and so many things to talk about on this one.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got a couple different heat sinks.
That one was the hardest one for us to do.
Yeah, the first one was.
Which one? Oh, the first
one that we did.
Figuring out how to mount both the whole unit in there to get the whole thing to work with the NUC.
I think,
so George,
you can correct me if I'm wrong here, George, but I think like the biggest challenge, other than just getting it going, was getting one that we could really produce and ship effectively and get to a customer safe. So that's what we did with this. So in the first system you probably saw, we mounted our video card right here, and then had our NUC on the main board with the system, using a riser card and a vertical mount. Whereas this one, we're going to have the video card installed the traditional way with the NUC right under it. So that allows that to be more stable, and then the foam that we use for the inside of our systems will fill in all the gaps between and keep this secure when it's shipping.
Yeah, the original design was definitely more for it was more for proof of concept. It's why it was just called the proof of concept for a long time, the dual PC proof. But the truth of the matter is that outside of that space, that unit came with some quirks that were not going to be good for customers. So part of the development process, to Paul's point, was, okay, well, we know we can make it work. The proof of concept runs. But as we were using it, as content creators got a chance to kind of play around with it, we started to see some issues with just usability that was not going to be good. There were issues mounting things like just adding cables for your HDMI or your DisplayPort were a bit of a problem with the mounting configuration that we had. Things that should be simple became complicated. Even though we made something that's complicated simple, we made something that's simple complicated. So that needed to get fixed. Yeah. So in turn, we had to come up with something that was, one, producible by the guys, in assembly, that would still keep the simplicity of how everyone uses a computer now, and be reproducible, right? We have to be able to produce these units for customers. So that's where this kind of configuration comes into play, where we're using the micro ATX inside of an ATX build to gain that extra space for the Nook and for the capture card. Another point is, if you remember, anybody remembers seeing it in person or images of the proof of concept, we used an external capture card.
Yeah.
And we wanted to internalize everything. We wanted to make sure we keep that cable clutter and all that stuff, everything just unified to one system. So now we have an internal capture card, which really just says everything is inside the computer that needs to be inside the computer.
Yeah. Which is great, because you get a higher fidelity. You get a higher fidelity and a higher quality, in my opinion, experience with internal cards. I use internal cards. I'm really glad to see that we're going to be using an internal card for this specifically. So that bottom piece of PC board, George, let's talk a little bit about how did that come around? So
that is a daughter card that is part of the Nook kit.
Gotcha.
The idea of bringing that about came from, how could we gain the space and mount it in a way that was reproducible, right? So when we spoke with Intel and we told them about the issues that we were running into, one of the best solutions that we could come up with was actually to use that unit. This simplified the process. So this was a huge win for us, as we were able to correct some of the problems that we had with the original proof of concept.
I had forgot about how the video outputs were on the proof of concept build, and we had the cables ran into the system, like the HDMI and DisplayPort. And
yes,
this is such a good solution for that. Because if we were to produce the other, we would, ship with those cables installed in the card and hanging out, and you just use what you need. But with this, it's just like a video card. You plug in whatever you need. So yeah.
That was actually the issue that we were running into. That made that's where, I stated earlier, we made something that's difficult and we simplified it, which is awesome. But then we also turned something that should be simple and we complicated it, which was something as simple as plugging in an HDMI cable became overly complex with the proof of concept. So it looked cool, but it was not feasible to tell somebody to take apart the entire back of their computer just to access, plugging in an HDMI.
Have a display port or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, we couldn't have got to this build without the first one, so.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the proof of concept got us to where we're at right now. So definitely happy that we were able to work with Intel on that.
Yeah.
One thing to note about to jump back over to some of the hardware. This, interestingly enough, this motherboard has 4 different temperature sensors, and it's something that I have not noticed on any of our previous boards. That has been something that's been pointed out, but especially given the work that this thing is about to do, I would imagine that is helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, George.
Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so most boards have some sort of temperature monitoring system. This, obviously, you're going to have one by your CPU, usually by your RAM, and then somewhere around those PCIe slots. And then you can have extras there. And those are all viewable in your BIOS. And there's probably some software you can download from your board manufacturer's site. That way you can see that up on your desktop.
Yeah, I think you brought up something interesting. DJ, you were saying kind of like advancements in technology when Marcus was here, and it sounds something.
Yeah.
It sounds really simple, but I think having built so many in the past and been working on it for so long, that's something that kind of goes undetected. Nobody really talks about it. Is how many temperature sensors we actually find in a motherboard right now. We used to have one, and that was all we had, and it would just tell you CPU temperature.
CPU,
so
yeah.
everything was determined by the temperature of your CPU. So your fans cranked up if your CPU was too hot. Nobody cared if your VREGs or your MOSFETs or any other component was hot. It was hey, CPU's not hot, so everything else can burn up. We're cool. So I think that stuff's really cool because now you can start tapping in, for example, certain segments of the motherboard can be cooled by ramping up fans that draw air or blow air over that area, and not just everything goes on or everything goes off, right? So that I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that we're seeing that
now. With regards to the fans, obviously we've got something very different here with our two different power supplies. We've got the EVGA 750 watt GT 80 plus gold for the Nook. We've got an 850 by EVGA, a G5 80 plus gold for the system. Now, because Leon Lee's got that interesting design to it where you've got that board sits 2/3 back, you've got usually at the bottom is where we'd put the first power supply. So are we going to be pulling out one of the hot swap bays?
Yes, so we will be pulling out one of the hot swap bays. It'll still have one in there, but we'll have basically one power supply stacked on top of each other.
Great. Well, and the nice thing is, with that many fans in it, this is going to be well ventilated, especially with the Leon Lee's current ventilation design. Let's talk about that airflow and how that's going to work, Paul.
Yeah, so what's nice with this case design, like we've talked about a little bit before, is all the heat from the power supplies is going to stay on the back side of the case. Now, even with two in here, it's still going to stay on the back side. We're basically going to have two intakes on the back and two exhausts on the back as well. So each power supply is going to get fresh air from the outside and exhausted out the back of the case. So even with two in here, none of that heat is going to get into the main portion of the case.
Great. And again, the Leon Lees are a wonderful build because they've got those feet on there. It keeps the base up off the floor, so you've got that airflow, cool air coming up, hot air rising, going right out through the radiator, which, of course, just to point out real quick, that is a Fantex Glacier 1 360 millimeter AIO. I know we talk about this a lot on the show, but for those who may not know, what is an AIO and how does it work? Why is it good?
Yeah, so an AIO stands for an all-in-one. So everything about this liquid cooler is just all right here. Right out of the box, it's good to go. You just install it. You don't need to add any fluid or adjust anything. So that's what that refers to. And why these are so good is the ease of install and the amount of cooling they provide. So this Fantex Glacier 1 360 can have 3 fans. You can do 6 if you want to do a push-pull. But the pump is all right here under the cap. And this specific 360 cools really well. We've had a lot of good tests with this one. But yeah, these are great. They're super easy to install. You don't have to do any maintenance. I will always use an AIO in my personal system just because I like to mess with it a lot. But yeah, it's a great solution for cooling.
Definitely got some. King Joker definitely says that's this is looking great. I agree. It's looking very, very clean. I'm loving the color design. Can we talk about that for a second, George? The designs and what's, because we've seen the last couple of giveaways have had we had the orange one, and then with the blue one, and then we had the one last week, which was the orange one, which was gorgeous. And so, what's the future of designs with CLX? You guys seem to be producing a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of the, for anybody that's been around since the beginning of CLX will know that we're probably most known for our colors. We definitely are not shy, we don't shy away from using colors on our systems. So I think we kind of started that with the community named Skittles set of systems, which we used in the original DreamHack events, which we had basically any color you can think of. and then we kind of moved on from that to the 90s themes, which was every computer was themed after a 90s sitcom. So we had, you know, we had Saved by the Bell. There was a Power Rangers one. I think we even had
one.
We had Jurassic Park. Yeah,
that was my favorite.
We had Jurassic Park.
That's great.
Surge was a hit.
We had Surge. Yeah, the Surge was I think the biggest one were probably, I know a lot of people liked Surge, and I want to say Saved by the Bell was probably one of people's favorites.
That's incredible.
So yeah, we definitely our designers definitely have a lot of freedom to come up with really cool ideas. But this that you're seeing now, it's kind of been the evolution of where we kind of started to what 6 years of doing that kind of looks like. So our designs were a little bit more aggressive, where we use the hexagon patterns and a lot of the carbon fiber look and feel. But we decided to merge that with the colors. Or one of our designers, Kyle, he kind of just started,
who's in chat,
you know, having freedom. Yeah, he started having some freedom with that, and we started seeing the combination of colors. And yeah, we stayed away from the kind of just black and red stuff, and now you see this is kind of that culmination of, okay, well, let's take two colors and toss it in there and see what that looks like. And if anybody kind of caught on to it, in the intro, you got to see Hathor's logo. So that's the latest addition to our list of gods. So Hathor is the latest and most powerful addition to that. So there she is. She is the first female that's also been brought into. She's the first female that's been brought into the gods. So she's the first.
That's
female.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And again, Scarecrow, freaking awesome. Crow did an incredible job designing this. You can see it goes all the way around too. It's front, back, sides, all the panels. The whole case is painted. It's rad. So yeah, and of course, if you guys want to check out the special editions that are available, and we have all sorts of different special edition combinations that you can see on the website. We'll drop a link for that in just a little bit. I do want to point out, if you type !CL or CLX Raw, you can find out more about the giveaway that we've got for last week's build. It is also an Intel build, and it's absolutely incredible. The codes that you see here today will give you 100 entries in addition to the entries you can get by simply following the link for the giveaway and completing all those little tasks, following all the channels, and looking for the other unique places that we're going to be dropping codes for you. So hopefully we're going to see one of you all as a winner come the 1st of January when we pull that, when we pull that, or at the end of, I'm assuming we're not going to do it right at the end of the night, because somebody's going to be celebrating on the 31st.
Yeah, we did.
So
yeah, I think that one will get missed if somebody's celebrating the new year.
We'll get that the next day.
Yeah.
So just to touch back on some of the components we've got in here, we've got the 10 fans, obviously, that have gone in. 3 on the bottom pulling air up, 3 on the top pushing air out, the exhaust, and the other 3 that are intakes. One thing that we did talk about last week that is a good piece of information: creating positive pressure in the case. You always want to have more fans pushing air in than you want pulling air out.
Yeah, well, there's definitely 2 ways that people do it. You can run negative pressure or positive pressure. But yeah, one of the main reasons people tend to run positive pressure is to kind of seals everything. So you're not you're moving the air as it accumulates. You're just getting that air out, and it's keeping everything breathing. Me on my computer, for example, I run negative pressure. So I have more fans that are exhausting than intaking. That's what I run on mine.
Okay.
And the main reason is because basically once you have negative pressure inside the chassis, air just flows in a lot faster. So it keeps things, you can do it that way, but that's because I'm not running push pull.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
in push pull you'll see a lot of positive pressure. Gotcha.
Interesting. All the little things. I'm always learning something every time we do this show. It's great. Coming back over to the build real quick, as you can see from this shot, we've got 2 Gskill sticks of RAM for a total of 32. It is DDR4 3600 Trident Z Neo. It's RGB, which is great. It'll light up. It's going to look wonderful along with those lights. The M.2 you can see on that board right there is a Samsung 1TB 980 Pro NVMe. So Paul, what's the difference between the Pro and a regular? Or anybody can answer that one.
I think Paul's mic is down.
Uh-oh. Well, George, what's the difference between a Pro and a regular?
Oh, I believe 980 Pros, the difference is just read and write speeds. I don't know if the difference, I don't know if the Pro is, I believe they're both MLC. So I do believe that they're both MLC, or maybe the 980 Pro is MLC and the 980's TLC. I'm not entirely sure. But it's definitely, I know that there's usually a difference on those. Paul might know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I just know that the Pro is a lot faster than the QVO is what it is now. I believe it used to be EVO.
Yeah. They definitely changed the name.
Is kind of the standard, yeah.
Pros usually have more read and writes also before before degradation. Yeah. So.
Right.
Gotcha.
The Pro, it is really fast.
Which would be great because the storage drive for the PC itself is, like I said, for the PC casing is a 2 terabyte Baracude hard disk drive, and that's going to be stored in that quick access or a hot swap bay that's in the top of the
Hayden's actually got that right now. So.
Oh, let's see.
Let's rotate this a little bit so we can get this. We can go back to that front shot, Jason. So he's got the Seagate 2 terabyte mounted in the tray right there. This is going to slide into the bay. This bay has connections at the end of it with wires coming out the back that we have already plugged in. Another really cool thing about this case is that you just plug in these wires here and you just slap the drive in. So if a customer had this system and they want to add another drive, there's another tray for a drive, and all they have to do is just install it in the tray and slide it in, and it'll automatically connect.
It's a genius thing that they do with this case. Honestly, every time we talk about it, I'm always amazed because I remember always having to go in and shut everything down, be very careful about plugging things, find a power cord, know where you're putting your drive on the ribbon, you know, before SATA was a thing, or SATA. But now you can just slide it in and out. Easy. It's smart.
It's one of those things like when we talk about like big improvements in like gaming PCs and stuff like that. There's little things like that that don't seem like super high tech that are just really nice. Like that, the motherboard, the card that we've had builds of in the past. Like those small changes are really nice if you're building PCs, and they can kind of go missed.
Nice. We've got, of course, the RTX 3080 by ASUS. It's a 10 gig. We'll be taking a look at that here in. Oh, did you pull it out? Let's take a peek.
I pulled it out of the box. I couldn't wait. Oh.
Yeah, right.
This card is a beast. So yes, we have a Gigabyte Aorus Master 3080 10 gig card here. This is, I believe, going to be a 4-slot card. Obviously, our 2 video outputs. This is 2 slots, and I'm going to say this is 4 with how thick this heatsink is. So we've got 3 8-pin VGA connectors there, and for our outputs, we've got 3 HDMI on the bottom and 3 DisplayPort up top.
What? Okay, so that's cool.
Outputs. Yeah, I think you typically see 4 video outputs on a video card, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
having 6 and 3 of each is really nice.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've never seen one with 6. Now, is that something that is decided by NVIDIA, or is that something that's decided by ASUS?
This will be decided by Gigabyte, ASUS, who put this on here. They will solder in all the outputs they need. Obviously, the more outputs add cost to the card, which is why this is a higher-end card, probably why they designated it the Master. But yeah.
That's incredible. Absolutely rad. Those new 30 series cards are just consistently impressive. Consistently impressive.
Yeah, you'll do but you won't. So there's definitely going to be limitations from NVIDIA side. What the manufacturers give you is options. So you have extra
Gotcha.
HDMI ports if you need them. You can only, yeah. So I believe 30 series supports 4 monitors max.
Okay.
And if you have Intel onboard graphics, you can do like 4+1, because you can do the
Okay.
output from the monitor from the system as well.
Okay.
So
Real
you can
quick,
do,
just
like,
a point over
4+1.
Hayden's.
Yeah, so
Hayden's
we're installing
connecting the Nook right now.
Yeah.
I do notice
So
the
we've got
the
our
Elgato
capture
card's already
card
been
in.
installed.
Yep. So we've got our capture card in. We put that in first because it's small and at the bottom. It would be kind of hard to put in if we installed the Nook first. So what Hayden's doing right here is he's ran his power cable for that. So he's got that plugged in, and now he's going to install that. It installs just like a regular video card. You just push it down, you hear that click, and it's in. And we'll put in a couple screws in the back. And then coming out of this Nook, there is some front panel connections that look like the front panel for a motherboard, and that's where we'll plug in our switch to turn it on as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Neat. And so it's so the in and out of the Elgato card is we're gonna come right out. It's just gonna be right there, or is this all gonna be transmitted via the boards?
No. So you'll go out of the video card. A typical setup, out of the video card into the Elgato, out of the Elgato into the monitor.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Now, the Elgato, because it's on the same board as the Nook, is part of that process structure.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So what you open up OBS on your Nook system, right? On that monitor.
Yeah.
OBS just picks it up as a device.
That's great.
Nice clean, simple. Yep.
Yeah. You can use short little cords finally. Not have to use 18,000 feet of cord.
Nice, simple, clean. The beauty of it, and I guess we can kind of talk about it a little bit more, is everything that you could possibly want to use that Nook for, you can do. Anything that you run on the side. Some people run some AI software while they're streaming, right? Let's say that somebody cheers a certain amount or does whatever, and you want to have lights go off and trigger. That needs to be triggered by something. You can run that kind of compute on the Nook and not take away from the main unit. You can run your Discord on the Nook and not have to run it on your main unit. You can run all those things through there, and especially if you're using any type of audio software, right? You can have all that run as pass-throughs, right? And have the Nook handle a lot of that compute.
That's incredible. That's
at the end of the day, your main computer is just a gaming computer. That is what it's going to be used for, and you don't have to worry about any other software stealing the thunder or taking any processes or any clocks or anything like that from it. It's all dedicated to gaming.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing. It's fun to watch it get it put in. Question for Paul and Hayden. So the 30 series card, the 3080, what we're putting in there right now, is it going to require any type of mounting strap or additional support? Since we're doing an MATX.
So we're going to be testing this, and then if we do decide to ship this, then we will definitely add in some support structure. A lot of our the foam that I talked about earlier provides really good structure as well. But yep, with this being an MATX board, it will take a different type of support mount for it.
Gotcha. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. Let's talk about a little bit real quick, because we haven't really talked much about it. This Nook is it's really great design. It's an i7 12700 processor, so one gen previous to the one that's running the gaming side of it. It's got a 16 gig card of DDR4 3200 RAM. It's also got a Samsung 1 terabyte 980 Pro NVMe, so the same M.2 that you've got on that motherboard is also inside of that inside of the Nook. And obviously the power supply is that EVGA 750 watt that's in the back on top or bottom. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the 750 is up top, so you can see them right there. We got our 850 down here and our 750 there.
Gotcha. So that's got to be some interesting having to pay attention to stuff moments for cable management, because you've got to make sure the cables you've got the right stuff going to the right products.
Yeah. And the Nook can run on its own, right? So that's another thing. You can run the Nook by itself if you want to, right? You don't have to turn on your main computer if you're not going to be gaming.
Oh, that's right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because it powers its own stuff.
Yep, correct.
Oh, that's right.
So if you're not gaming, you don't even have to. You don't even have to power. You don't even have to power the gaming unit up. It has its own power. It runs its own operating system.
Yeah. Well, and with Synergy, like that's, I keep going back to what you were talking about earlier about being able to either lock everything on one screen or open it up and be able to move across as if it was all one
Correct.
PC with multiple monitors.
Correct.
Something that I think I might actually try and do on my system.
Yeah. It'll react like it's just, you know, multiple monitors. You just let it know where that secondary monitor is located, and then that it'll trigger over IP when it reaches the border of your main screen. It'll make the software connection saying, okay, you're trying to jump to the next monitor. Let me put myself there, and then it starts tracking on the other monitor without feels normal, feels natural.
Yeah. And as far as the cable management, Hayden, I know you were back there just going really fast at it. Honestly, I'm impressed we've gotten this far this fast already. What was some of the process that you went through, and how did that all work out? Look.
So you can obviously see that there's two power supplies stacked on top of each other, and I kind of had to just put one at a time and kind of bundle everything up in one power supply, and then go to the next one. So as you can see, the two fan controllers are together because there's tin fans, so we need
Smart.
to power those. And yeah, it's kind of just everything's in its own little group.
Interesting.
Nice.
Very interesting. So many different kinds of computers that CLX offers. It's incredible. And of course, this was at you guys. Did you have this down at LA Comic-Con?
No. So we took the at LA Comic-Con we didn't take any of the prototypes at all, because all of them were being worked on for the launch.
Got it. Okay. No worries. Well, speaking of that, I know that you guys had. Yeah, so I heard it was absolutely amazing down at LA Comic-Con, and I know that the production team has put together an incredible video. So let's take a look at that right now and step right inside Los Angeles Comic-Con.
Los Angeles Comic-Con!
J. Jonah Jameson, Jerry Bill. Welcome to the LA Comic-Con. Now, as you can probably tell, there's a lot of cosplayers here dressed as this right here. Right there. I don't have enough bug spray to take care of that.
I'm getting to fight on camera with Roddy Piper. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. And he showed me a couple of great moves, so anyone who ever jumps me from behind, I got something for you.
I've been a huge Star Wars fan, anime fan, Marvel fan pretty much my whole life. It's my own character. I call myself Master 2K. I've always wanted to do my own cosplay and just go with my friends and just have a great
New things, so that's why I'm here. It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, very nervous.
So I was, because people, you don't know if they're judging you, if they're like, cheering you on, just looking like, damn, her gameplay, Nuki, or, oh, okay, she's trying, you don't know. So you just gotta put yourself out there, and it can be really scary, and I was scared. I think you were scared.
I was really having like an out-of-body experience. I was messing up really badly, like the first like hour and a half. But once that other hour came, and then I got a clutch in Valorant, which was amazing. My first clutch ever in Valorant.
My name is Marine1169. Yes, I am a real Marine, did 21 years active duty service, and now I stream. Today I was streaming Call of Duty 2.0 is one of the, Warzone is one of the newest games that came out. Because I had people coming up, actually asking me questions while I was streaming, and then also watching me play. So I'm kind of used to that, just being a streamer and having multiple people in my stream. CLX, let me tell you this, CLX systems are awesome. I have two of them at home. One is my streaming computer, and the other one is my gaming computer. And just coming here, seeing a familiar system that I'm used to playing on, it was awesome. I'm glad CLX is here.
Wow, absolutely incredible coverage. I love it. That was great. And the best part about that, you got to hang out with Keith David. Really? That's amazing. Keith David has been in so many video games that I just love. He's a great actor, absolutely incredible actor, and cosplaying is also astounding. But most of all, you had the creator hub there where all the streaming happens, and that's what CLX powered. How many PCs did you bring?
We had I think it was 120 that were there total, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We had all the Stream Studio, and then we had also Free Play was there as well. So we had 75 computers, all powered by Intel. They're our partner in this, and basically we had the computers available for anybody that wanted to test out any games. So any games they wanted to play, something new that they wanted to try out, or just gaming next to your friend.
Well, that brings me to my next point that I definitely want to point out, because there's so many different options. For anybody who's wanting to know more about these PCs, or if you're looking to try and step up to the next level, you want to check out CLXgaming.com. At CLXgaming.com, we make it an opportunity for you to experience everything about PC building, from what we do here on the site to pre-builds. You can go ahead and choose all of your stuff, all the things that you want to put in a PC, whatever you're going to be using it for: architecture, design, film, games, streaming, audio production. All of these are options, and we have every single piece that you could think of. And don't worry if you don't feel like you're comfortable selecting your own parts. We have a foolproof way of making sure that that doesn't happen. We have a solved conflict resolution that won't even let you add your build to the cart until you've got compatible parts already in. There's always somebody available to answer questions, and the best part is you can do it all right here on the website. From hard drives to graphics cards to even internal internal and external capture cards. It's a wonderful experience. We've got pre-builts that are ready to ship, and they all head right on out. So if you see something you like, grab it right now. Of course, we've got the holidays going on. It's a wonderful experience. Check it out. CLXgaming.com. Here's a moment where you just lose track of what you're doing. That just happened. So with regards to that, let's talk one thing I wanted to point out that Paul and Hayden are involved in. What happens with these PCs once somebody goes ahead and puts their PC together, they put it in their cart, they order it? What goes on once it's built?
Yeah, so every machine after it's built goes to our testing and integration department. This is where we'll first get into the BIOS, make sure everything's set correctly, download any software, install the operating system that the customer has selected. And then we put every system through a 12-hour stress test. That allows us to, if there's a component that is going to fail, usually it's going to fail within that 12-hour stress test, and that allows us to catch that there and replace it or fix it. That way we deliver a solid computer to the customer. Every machine we do goes through that testing.
Awesome. And of course, if you'd like to choose to whether or not you get your PC overclocked, either your CPU, your GPU, or both, that's also something that you guys do.
Yeah, that's something that we'll first do in that testing step, and then we'll make sure it goes through the 12-hour stress test with that overclock on, so that you get a stable clock.
Awesome. Perfect. I noticed you holding up some grating, some venting. What are those?
Yeah, we've got our magnetic filters here. We've got it all buttoned up and plugged in, so we're good to throw all the panels on and get this thing turned on. But so what I've got here is a magnetic dust filter. This is the one going on the top. So just slap it on there, and then if you ever want to clean it, you just pull your panels off, take it off, wipe it down, rinse it off, whatever you need to do. Every opening on this case has a magnetic filter there. So we've got one on the bottom, two on the back, and one on the top.
That's really handy.
Yeah,
really
super
handy.
Easy.
All right, well, I guess let's go ahead and throw our panels on.
Sounds good. I'm going to try to do this front one. Actually, let's do that back one first.
Jeez, that thing looks gorgeous. Look at that.
These colors look great.
Kyle did an just incredible job with that design. I love it.
Yeah, something unique to this system that you'll see as we're putting these panels on is we've got two power cords going into it. That's obviously one for each power supply.
Oh yeah, that's actually something I didn't really think about. But yeah, you would need two plugs for that.
All right, can you do it backwards?
Oh.
Perfect.
One of the things that I love about the Leon Lee cases is that there's no holes in the glass for screws. You just slide it right on in. It's very, very easy.
Yeah, all these just slide in, and then that top panel slides over, covers them all up, keeps them all in there nice and secure.
That looks wicked. The top's even got a design, and it's ready to go.
Alrighty, so we're about ready to fire this thing up. Everything look good over there, Jason? Sweet.
The PC in a PC. Wow.
Oh man, that thing looks good.
It's going. That looks amazing.
Yeah, the purple looks great.
Yeah, it does. That's a perfect background. It's so well lit. I'm excited to hear how this goes in the testing for it. That's going to be incredible. So let's go ahead and cover what's inside this device one more time. This is the brand new Hathor, available on the CLXgaming.com website. It has 10 GameDS Aeolus 12mm, 120mm fans in it, with an EVGA 850 watt power supply for the main PC and a 750 watt power supply for the Nook. On our main computer, we've got an Intel i7-13700K on top of an ASUS Prime Z690M plus D4 motherboard. It's being cooled by an AIO. It's a Fantex Glacier 1 360mm, and you've got 32 gigs. That's two 16 gig sticks of DDR4 3600 Trident Z Neo RGB memory. The main operating system drive on the main system is going to be the same as it is on the Nook. It's a Samsung 1TB 980 Pro NVMe, and there's also a 2TB Baracude hard disk drive that's located in the hot swap bay on the back of the case. The graphics are going to be handled by a Gigabyte Aorus RTX 3080 graphics card. It's a 10 gig, and that's not all. We've also got a Nook in there. That Nook is an i7-12700 processor with 16 gigs of DDR4 3200 RAM. Again, that Samsung 1TB hard drive, and obviously it's being plugged into that 750 watt power supply. Absolutely incredible, gentlemen. Absolutely incredible.
It looks really good. That is probably my favorite looking one so far.
Yeah, it's wild. Absolutely incredible. So any final thoughts or comments?
Just excited to see these. These are great.
Yeah.
I think we definitely just got confirmation though. So for anybody in the chat, I think we had a special announcement, DJ. So
can I? Okay.
Yeah, this you can go for it.
All right. This PC is going to be our next giveaway.
So
yes!
yeah, this exact computer right now, guys, the first Hathor that was built here is going to be actually given away. So I believe that giveaway will be going live today, so stay tuned. It is Christmas, so we will be running 2 giveaways. So
what?
So yeah, guys, this
That's
is
incredible.
This is Hathor. I hope that you know, from us to you guys and our partners at Intel, I hope you guys, you know, like the build, like where we're going with it. It's a lot of work that was put into making this stuff work, but you know, we're happy that we have a partner such as Intel that wants to innovate and, you know, try to make things easier for creators. And yeah, we'll hopefully be able to do a lot more cool things going forward, and definitely make sure that you catch us next year at any of the events that we're going to be at.
Absolutely. All right. And any thoughts from you two for the building process? Because you managed to get that done quickly.
Hayden's the man.
Yeah, it's not any different. I mean, the only difference is you got 2 power supplies. I've done that before with an open loop, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoy this color scheme we have going on. It's definitely one of my favorite print jobs that we have. I really, you know, I want it as my personal build, so yeah, it's beautiful.
It's great. All right, well, that is going to bring us to the end of today's show. Again, it's exclamation give Hathor for the Hathor giveaway, and keep an eye on social media. You can follow CLX Gaming at CLX Gaming on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter for all the latest that's coming out with this. And we're going to be having another show again next week, but back at our regular time, 11 a.m. Pacific, that's 2 Eastern, for the next edition of CLX Foundry Live. On behalf of Jason in production, and of course Kyle for design, George and Marcus, along with Paul and Hayden, I'm DJ BluePDX, and we'll see you next time right here.
Ripping harder, more less. Never stop, no rest. Till the stress is breath in my chest. Till it's time.